We are live and we're back at it again. So, of course, it is Friday. We are on the Loyalty and Friends Self-Love Podcast. And today we have a special guest. Yes, indeed. We had part one of this interview already. So, if you missed part one, man, I'm telling you, tap in. You definitely missed some amazing information. And the part one of this interview was on Instagram Live. So, go watch it, okay? Loyalty and everything is the Instagram page, of course. And I'm telling you, you definitely want to tap in, okay? So I do want to kind of just dive and go further into our conversation. We talked about, you explained to us what the Southern Indigenous Coalition was and, you know, what the goal was overall. So I want to, for one, we talked about the public sector, but you mentioned also that you have a private sector, you know? And so, like, is that still open for people to join as well? And like, what does that look like?
Yes, it is. It's called Indigenous Dedicated Ministries. And this is a 98 EIN or an entity that is foreign to the United States. A lot of people in the conscious or the indigenous community are familiar with 98 EINs. They are, like I keep elaborating on, outside of the jurisdiction of the United States, which means the officials within the government here that run this side of the map wouldn't be able to pull up into any of the land that would be inside of these entities slash trusts, because it's also a trust. A lot of our people weren't educated on the fact that there's a fine line between church and state. State protects the church, but can't cross that line over into the church. That's why people, if you notice back in the days, I know like with the Catholics, they used to go and have confessionals and they would be able to speak to these different priests and they will have confidentiality. The reason why they will have confidentiality is because of these common laws. You're speaking on some of the older laws when we were in the last interview. Those
Absolutely.
old laws still protect us. That's called common law. And a lot of our people aren't educated on common law anymore, but it's still in effect. Everything is about how you claim yourself. Which jurisdiction do you claim yourself in? So those of us that want to exist in the private, this is the way that you would exist in the private. You would create a trust that's foreign to the entity that is utilizing us as a straw man. To the ones of you who have been doing your studying, your straw man is who your social security number is attached to. That's the fictitious person that your social security number is attached to. There are funds that can be accessed once you are claiming the correct status. Am I currently claiming the correct status? No, I'm not claiming the correct status now. Am I aiming to be claiming the correct status? Yes, I am. How am I going about doing that? Through studying and research. There are, there are a lot of people advertising, saying, hey, we can free you. We have these different U.S. national packages that you can purchase. But my suggestion is to do it yourself. Everything that I found dated, I done myself through my own research, through my own studying. If you want it, you're going to do what it takes in order to get it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people that try to go the short way, they end up getting scammed by somebody that was worried about a green piece of paper. So with that being said, protect your energy, like I said in the last podcast, and do your research. Don't just go off of what I'm telling you, or don't go off of what others tell you. Do your own research. Look up what a U.S. national is. Look up a 98 EIN/trust. Look that up and actually see what comes along with it. You'll be able to see how to move correctly in the realm that we exist in. And like I said, nobody has it all figured out. But
Absolutely.
together and collectively, that's why I started going back to the tribal way of living, because our people used to work together in order to accomplish things faster.
Mm,
So with me doing that, I'm able to get knowledge from various people that are striving in the same struggle. All of
mm,
us are striving to free ourselves. Everybody know, each individual knows something the other individual doesn't know.
right.
So when you bring everybody together, that brings a wholeness to what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. And not even trying, because you're striving, you're doing it, okay?
Right.
So, and I want to read some of these comments. I know, I think I know who that is commenting, because I told you he is on this, okay? So he said church is a trust. And he also said they do have the process already. And my brother, he's definitely endowed as well. So that's why I say I think your community, if they connect, boy,
Right.
you really gonna be to the next level where you're attempting to get, And
Let's
then he
go.
mentioned corporation. And Yave, my brother Yave is in the building. Shout out,
What's
wave
up,
on
bro?
him, wave on him. Period. Yes. So yeah, we are a part of the wave committee as well, the wave movement, I would call it. And I just thank my brother. I have to shout him out because he has a great mission, and it's all about bringing community together. And so I
It
just love
definitely
what you're
does.
doing
Shout
because
out, bro.
yes, shout out. I see you here just shouting it out. Yes. So I don't know, I hear something. You hear that?
Yeah, I hear something too.
Oh, there
What's
we go.
going on? I don't know.
Okay. I
Might
don't
be
know.
trying to
But it's all
interfere
right.
with
We're not
knowledge
gonna let
being
it stop anything.
exposed. Right.
Absolutely. So now the private sector, okay. So you said a 98 EIN. And a lot of people probably have never even heard of that before now. You know what I'm saying? So what would be like the first step that you would, mention that somebody would want to take if they was, really wanting to educate themselves on the indigenous like community and even the private sector of that? Like what would be the beginning steps or phase of that?
I would say studying your own genealogy. Like I said, I became aware of who I was through what my elders and my ancestors told me. So
Mm-hmm.
connect with your family. 9 times out of 10, your grandmother probably already told you who she was, told you who you are. You just have to go back and remember that. Or if it wasn't your grandmother, it might have been your great grandmother. It was some family member somewhere along the line that elaborated on where your folks were originally from.
Mm,
What I do is um and the tribal societies, like I was saying earlier, everything was a matriarch society. So it came from the women. The tribe was determined by your your mother's side.
by the
So
matriarch basically of the family.
exactly. So when you start researching, you research your mother's side. You find out who her mother was, who her mother's mother was, and you keep going back. And
Mm,
you look for the location that they existed in. What indigenous tribal people originated in Dothan, Alabama? That's where I was born. I was born in
mm,
Dothan, Alabama. So I looked up how long my people lived in Dothan, Alabama, and where they immigrated from with the E. Immigrated with the E means within the same continent. Immigrated with the I is outside of the continent. So they
mm,
traveled within the jurisdiction of what we call the United States. When I found out where they were before Dothan, Alabama, they were in Aiken, South Carolina. They
mm,
were in Aiken, South Carolina for a very long, extended period of time. So when I found that information out, I started looking up what tribes were prevalent in that area or within that radius at that time.
mm.
Cherokee, Catawba,
Right.
Shawnee, and a few other indigenous tribes made up or ruled over that specific area. My ancestors made sure that we knew that we were Cherokee. So
Mm,
when I started doing my research on my genealogy, I utilized document. A lot of people get caught up in the DNA way. I want
mm,
y'all to think about one thing when it comes to DNA. A DNA
Who's
test,
governing it?
right? Who who are they basing the information off of when they take your information? Who are they comparing
Mm,
it to in order to determine that that's where you come from? Because when they do, let's say you're doing a paternity test in order to determine where your child comes from, they're going
yeah.
to take specimens from all individuals involved to verify what's going on. How can you say I'm from Africa or I'm from Germany or I'm from China if
If they don't
you
have
don't
any
have
specimens from those individuals then, and were they even being documented at the time? So everything you said, listen, I got that just like this. Because it's like if our
right,
people weren't even being documented, there was no such thing as birth certificates. Okay, like when did birth certificates even exist? You get me? So how were people
right,
being documented prior to then? And if there was no specimens or anything that was being collected, where's all this data being? Where was the data being held? Within the people.
right,
Mm,
exactly. So it's stuff like that you have to pay attention to with the with the modern tribes utilize in order to determine whether or not you can receive a tribal card, and tribal enrollment nowadays is genealogy.
mm,
They expect you to have a family tree. Your ancestors or your elders have to be in their Indian roll somewhere. An Indian roll is like a census report that they they took yearly on an annual basis in order to gather information about a particular people. So
mhm,
when I did my research, I was able to find my ancestors inside of the Dawes Rolls, and they were labeled as Cherokee. They were part of the Cherokee Nation. A lot of our
mm,
ancestors were not a part of any of these organizations because they tried to
right,
hide a lot of this information. But by utilizing the study of your genealogy, if you can go back and you can track where they existed at for extended periods of time, you go back and you look and you see my ancestors was right here 50, 60 years out of their life. Their parents was right here when they gave birth to them. And they was there for the majority of their life. They were a part of those specific tribes of people where they existed at during that period of time. But our people, we're so used to listening to what somebody else tell us because we went to these
mhm,
folks' schools or we sat here and watched these folks commercials and they utilize their commercials in order to trick and to brainwash us out of a couple of dollars and to hide us from our
mm,
truth. Our truth is the majority of us are from this land, and they were trying to separate us
right,
from our land, from our heritage, from our
mm,
birthright. So now we're bringing awareness. That's why I'm a chief. That goes back to what you asked in the first interview. Why am I? Who are you? I'm here
right. Who are
to
you?
remind everybody of who they are. That's part of my role. I need us to wake up, stop listening to what these folks telling you, and tune in to what your elders and your ancestors taught you. Tune in to what your spirit is leading you to.
Right. So it's funny you say that. My grandmother, unfortunately, she's been deceased like well over 20 years now. She passed back in like 2002. But I recall having a few. See, I'm gonna tell you, that's the devil right there trying to interrupt our services, and we ain't finna let
Mm-hmm.
him go through this because I ain't had none of these issues in no
Right.
other interview. But all of a sudden, we having these issues, and he really attempting to educate us. Man, listen, I
It's
hear the
okay.
little interference, but it's okay. It's okay. But I remember my grandmother sharing with me that grandmother, if I'm not mistaken, she was My great grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee Indian. This is what she shared. So, like when you say you have to have these conversations, and I remember this as a child hearing this story. And she was saying, "You see how we have these high cheekbones?" She was telling us, like, look at your features. But she was saying, like we have a lot of light or fair skinned people in our family. Like my baby brother, he is very bright skinned. Okay, and she explained that the reason is because this was like, so I want to say it had to be my great grandmother. Um, of course, was a slave, and she was being raped by her master. And so, of course, that's where the crossbreed came in, and that's where we got that lighter complex from. So, of course, my great grandmother was Cherokee Indian and white because of that. Okay. And then of course it goes further than, because she married a black man, we was getting, of course, back into our native part of us. But yeah, that's part of what I've heard. So let's say like somebody from like myself. I don't have any great grandparents. My grandmother, of course, I never had a grandfather per se. I know that part of what my grandmother told me. So with that type of information, where would someone like myself be able to start? Because the ancestors not here to really speak to, you know?
Right. So what you would do would, um, I work with assisting people through them talking to the survivors and members of their family that they do have, to dig and find information such as names. If you can get the names of some of your ancestors, whether you were physically present with them or not, if you can retrieve those names, we can look back through ancestry.com, or what is it, 23andMe. There's a couple of sites that you can utilize in order to
Mhm.
find information on your family's genealogy. So that's what I would suggest, using the names, also connecting with the family members that you do have to see if there's a family tree somewhere. Those are a couple of options that I would say to utilize in order to dig back. There, there are a couple of people close to me who are in the situation to where they really don't have names like that and
Right.
things of that extent. What I do in those scenarios is I try to find out, okay, well, can you find out where your people were from? Can you find out as far back as you can go, where was they at? And I start the research based upon their location. Like I was saying
Mm.
earlier, what tribes of people existed in these specific locations. And from there, you can kind of gauge it, because there were certain tribes, there were a lot of tribes, but they were all tied to each other. That's another reason why I
Right.
chose the word coalition when naming my nonprofit organization, because it was the restoration of all the tribes coming back under one umbrella. So that's the main thing. And following your spirit. Another thing that we need to remember is that you know who you are. It doesn't necessarily take a piece of paper in order for you to confirm that. Spirit tells you who you are.
Mm.
Listen to the voice inside of you. That's the voice that's the loudest for you
Mm.
anyway. If you're not listening to grandma's voice somewhere, or one of these ancestors who transitioned over, that's your spiritual guide right now, walking you through your path, other than them, you're the loudest voice that you hear in your head. So follow the voice on the inside. You know exactly who
Mm.
you are. It's more so about utilizing meditation, setting your intentions as far as I want to learn where I come from,
Right.
speaking that into existence, and watch and taking the steps in order to follow through. Like once you say that, and then you start looking for names, you start calling uh, family members, asking them about specific names or specific locations, the signs gonna start appearing. Stuff gonna start.
So it sounds like what you're saying is manifestation. You got to manifest it, the need for it. Once you manifest it, then it's research and then it's execution in that order.
In that order.
Manifest, research, execution, period.
That's it.
I love it. So we're gonna stop it right here. We got more conversation, y'all. We're gonna have a question and answer session. That's part 3. So you all can join us on Clubhouse, okay? If you want to do Q&A, oh, there you go. I figure it's a connection. It's okay. See, I know they're trying to kick you out of here because you're speaking too much truth, brother. That's what's going on. They want to
It's
kick
all
you out
good.
here because you're speaking too much truth. That's what
I
happens
got
when you
my
speak the
sage
truth.
burning over here. They can't stop it.
They ain't stopping nothing because guess what? We're going to take it to Clubhouse. It's an audio app, okay? And on the audio
All
app,
right.
you can actually ask questions. So we want y'all to join us. Come up there, ask questions. If you want to give accolades, that's cool. We want to keep it down to 30 minutes. If he wants to go over, I'm okay with that. But I just want to respect his time because he did take time out of his schedule to be here with us and educate us. So join us at 8 p.m. sharp on Clubhouse in the Loyalty and Friends house, okay? Loyalty and Friends house. All right, but thank you so much. Make sure y'all support. We did put his links there. He is on Instagram as Chief Golden Hawk 369. All right, and I put I typed it in here because they really attempting to get over my voice because they don't want me to put this info out here, but it's okay because we're gonna put it out there anyway. Or you can follow his actual movement at Southern Indigenous 369. Okay, also on Instagram. So thank you. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to get yourself together, and then I see you on Clubhouse. Okay. All right. Later, y'all. Till next time.